Thank you very much. So my name is Harmen from Knight Frank. I'll be moderating this session for you today, this morning. The topic is about real estate development trends in Saudi Arabia. I don't think I have to introduce you again. I want to start off with highlighting the Saudi report. So the Saudi report is an annual publication by Knight Frank, whereby we have surveyed more than 1,000 Saudi households in the kingdom, half of which were based in Riyadh. It wouldn't be surprised that a lot of those are domestic migrants, people from other parts of the kingdom. At the same time, we are aware that RCRC has an aggressive growth target for the city of Riyadh to grow it from today's 7.5 million to 15 or even 70 million in 2030. To do that with organic growth, that would be very difficult, right? So it's very much about migration. That could be expats, but perhaps more so domestic migrants. Now, when we looked at the survey results and did a deep dive into the domestic migrants, we found out that the preferences of this demand segment is quite different from the people that see Riyadh as their home city. For instance, they are more interested in smaller unit types, i.e. apartments. More importantly, they actually don't want to buy. They are interested in renting. And if they want to buy, they will buy in their hometown, not necessarily in Riyadh. Yet, I haven't seen many institutional real estate developers focusing on the build-to-rent market, which I think is potentially the way forward. So my question, let's start off with Riyadh. Where do you see this is going? Do you see that there's an opportunity there in the build-to-rent market? And if so, why hasn't that been addressed yet?
I totally agree with you. There is a huge opportunity in rental market in the kingdom right now, currently. And to be honest, it has been addressed through a smaller developer individual who sell their unit and the investor buying and put it in the bull market in the kingdom right now. So there is a rental market, but not like a compound before. Usually the developer 2000, they were focusing on developing compound for expatriates. We see now that there is increase on the Jawdat al-Hayat, the lifestyle in Riyadh. So, the foreigner and expatriate, they don't think they need a compound and they need to pay extra more for a compound. So they rent now in the normal building, on a different building. And that has been addressed, but not to that extent. In addition, the investor or the small investor, they see there is opportunity in the hospitality currently. So they don't even buy to rent for a long stay. They start using the application of Airbnb, gather in for a short stay as well, and this will compete with the hotel because there is a huge demand on hospitality and hotel accommodation right now in Riyadh. So the developers are actually developing for rent, but to investor, not to direct the develop for an institution to buy and rent it. However, I believe with the current vision of 2030, and we believe that the population of Riyadh will increase to 20 million, 15 to 20 million, we need 1.2 million house in the kingdom in the next in Riyadh in the next 5 years. And those type of units are required. I think the majority of it will be for rent, not for develop and sell. So we will see developer focusing in this sector now more and more. We have seen the developer of housing focusing on or move to office currently because of the demand on office. I believe shortly they go back to the housing sector again, and they need to develop more and more. Otherwise, we will see an inflation in the rental market, huge inflation in the rental market.
Good, good. Okay, understood. Dr. Badr, is that sort of a segment that you see as promising as well?
Well, I think with the high interest rates, it's becoming more difficult for the ownership to increase. So most of the locals and expats are really going to the rental sector. Mm. And with the expansion of businesses in Riyadh and the fast growth, it's becoming more difficult to find the right place to own a house or accommodation or apartments. So it's more easy to rent now. So the rental market is becoming higher in demand at the meantime. However, the government plans is to increase the ownership of citizens. But we have more expats now moving to Riyadh than citizens. So there will be higher demand for the rental markets at the short-term period.
All right. So one other interesting phenomena that we know in other parts of the world, it's called the housing ladder. I think outside of the GCC, once you're done with your education and you leave your parents' house, including myself, you know, I moved to a little studio, and then once I graduated and have a decent income, I may upgrade to an apartment, and then you're married and you upgrade and you get kids and so on, and you keep on upgrading your home. What we've seen in Saudi Arabia in the past, that was not the case, right? So often, most of the time, when in Saudi leaves the parents' house, the expectation is to just occupy a villa immediately. Now, with the increase in house values, interest rates were already mentioned, and also the reduction in government subsidies, this is not really sustainable. Okay, so Dr. Badr, again, I'll start with you, but how do you see, is that something that is changing here? Is the Saudi market gonna look a little bit more like other markets in that respect? And if so, how is Al Saedan addressing that?
Are we talking about the rental?
Yeah, I'm talking about the phenomena of the housing ladder, whereby young people, when they leave the parents' house, that they start actually with a smaller property, not move to a villa. That's not, in the rest of the world, that's not normal.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cultural issue, local, in the Saudi market, where the locals used to start their life with their parents at the same home. Mm-hmm. And now it's changing, so young people are trying to reside or start their life at their own house or own residence. But the way we think, we're used to remain in the same house with our family, which is more spacious, very nice, very huge, very big, but do not expect to move to start the same. So we should start building the culture again to start in a small home, like an apartment, and then move on to a wider apartment, then to a house, then to a bigger house. Mm-hmm. I think young people are now understanding this issue, and there is a huge demand at the meantime for small units for the young people, as we have young generation, and this country has high percentage of young generation which are in high need or demand for small units to be starting with at the meantime.
Yeah. I have to agree to that. So I refer to the Saudi report again. We notice that the Saudis are more open to apartments, But it doesn't mean that they are okay with an apartment building as we've known them in the past in Saudi Arabia. It also doesn't mean that they would be happy with an apartment next to their parents' home on the outskirts of Riyadh. No, if they compromise on space and privacy, they will expect other aspects, such as reduced commuting time to work. Yeah, that's an important one. People don't like to spend time in traffic anymore, 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day. They expect facilities and amenities nearby. The mosque, of course, was very important, but also, coffee shops, a gym, security, all of that. So apartments are, the Saudis are more acceptable to them, but it should be seen as part of a mixed-use project, facilities, amenities, and so on. So I'm wondering, like, how that is. Are you addressing that? I think I should look at Riyadh with Tatweer. Is that some product type, apartments in a mixed-use context that you see with Tatweer that you're developing?
I think it's become one of the major components, actually. We usually, the anchor in any development we do was the office. Currently, apartments become taking part of this share or residential, actually. And we believe, as you mentioned, the new generation or the newcomer to Riyadh are looking for different type of product. Not a normal product anymore. They don't want a villa. They want a small apartment, as Doctor said. They are looking for a facility. They are looking for lifestyle. They are looking to be more close to the office. Riyadh has become more and more traffic. So they are very carefully right now where actually they rent the unit. And this is the reason why people delay the decision of buying a unit currently, because they don't know they're going to work tomorrow here or in the south of Riyadh or north of Riyadh. And they are focusing right now, actually, the new generation are more entrepreneur. They would like to invest more. If they take loan from bank, they will not take it to buy a house. So they are, in the first 5-10 years of their life, focusing in the rent more than buying a house.
Yeah. Okay, understood. With Saedan, a big landowner, developer, is that a product type, residential, mixed-use apartment type? Is that something that is on the cards?
Yes, of course. We have a lot of investments on the land development, starting with the land infrastructure, horizontal development, and then dividing this land for high-rise villa type and high density and low density residential and commercial. So the high density model is needed now in Riyadh especially. And I want to emphasize on the cultural differences in the same country. In Saudi Arabia, we have different cultures. For example, the demand in the central region is different than the demand in the western province or eastern province because of cultural issues, different cultural issues in both provinces, in each province in the country. So in the western province, and maybe Riyadh knows this, the demand is on the smaller units and apartments has been for a long time the same. But in the central region, it's only a new thing. So there is no much apartment units for locals. It's only started a few years ago. So there's still high demand for the high-rise and smaller units for the locals in central region, especially Riyadh.
And also urban sprawl. So Riyadh is known as a very big city because everybody has so much. It's so inefficient, low dense, right? And I think now with the metro coming up, the mixed-use concept, you have the opportunity to make it much more efficient.
Changing. The plan of the city is changing to the higher density with the metro plans. And the high-rise, before you don't see high-rise buildings in Riyadh, and the density was very low. And now they're increasing the density because to get to get the benefit of the infrastructure already built in downtown and the smaller around the downtown. The infrastructure is already there. So and to reduce the city size with increasing the capacity of the city from 5-6 million to 10-15 million people.
Exactly. That's good. Thank you very much for that. I think so what we're trying to do is looking maybe at global trends and how they apply to Saudi Arabia. One other global trend that we're seeing is that the baby boomers and Generation X, I think I myself am a Generation X, and I think some here as well. For us, home ownership has always been on the top of the agenda. Owning your home is very, very important. What we're seeing, well, globally first, is that that is not so much the case anymore. It may be partly driven by unaffordability. It's not that when people graduate in, let's say, Western Europe, where I'm from, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to just finance a home by yourself. But also, the focus is much more on experience. People tend to spend much more on holidays, that's all okay. Part of that study that we've done, the Saudi report, we asked the people what is the least concern when they book a hotel. And when we looked at the millennials and Generation Z, the least concern was the price of the hotel. But it's strange because these are the same people that struggle to finance a home in Saudi Arabia. So with the focus on experience, I think let me start off with you, Chadi. With the focus on experience, like how do you address it as a hotel operator?
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Harmen. Actually, and I think it's a pretty interesting point. The point that you raised that people are not afraid to spend a little bit more right now, or the pricing is not something very important. We've seen a few trends, and I think the pandemic has had quite an interesting impact on the traveler's mindset. Three trends actually come to mind. One of them is, first of all, the experiences and the experiential aspect of traveling. We're seeing more and more of the guests who are not really looking at the hotel room as a product, but more at what the product can offer from an experience perspective and how it makes them feel and how it connects with the local culture. So you have that part that is very important. I think the second part is luxury. I think after the pandemic, people valued traveling much more and weren't afraid and weren't holding back on spending, and we've seen in our luxury portfolio an increase of demand, especially after the pandemic. And the third point is this new concept coming up of bleisure, which is a mix between pleasure and business. People are wanting to travel more for work, but at the same time they want to extend that travel and, for example, stay over the weekend, bring in their family and use it as a leisure destination, and that has increased the length of stay in our hotels. So I think these three main trends that came up over the past 3 years have been noticed within our portfolio.
And then when it comes to the sort of the facilities and amenities you have in your hotel to cater to, as you call it, bleisure, right? Business, leisure. How is that going to be different, let's say, compared to a pure leisure hotel or a pure business hotel?
So from an amenities perspective, especially here in the region, our hotels cater to practically everything. It's just the use of that hotel that is expanding. So for example, your typical corporate hotel that usually has a pool or a kids area will be used a little bit more over the weekend, and it's just increasing that length of stay and using these facilities during the stay. However, just from a leisure perspective and from an experience perspective as well, we've noticed that there is an increase in our portfolio in something called the collection brands. And these are brands such as Tribute Portfolio, Autograph Collection, and Luxury Collection. These are brands that highlight the identity of the hotel itself. Mm-hmm. And we've seen an increase of people wanting to stay in these hotels because they want to experience a different type of offering.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're talking now about hotels. I think at the moment there's more than 180,000 hotels in the pipeline for Saudi Arabia, which is a huge amount. I think in the UAE currently there's around 180,000. So in the next couple of years, in the next, let's say, 5-6 years, in Saudi we're trying to build the same amount of hotels, as what the UAE currently has on offer. Then the next question is, of course, apart from building them, is who's going to work in that, in those hotels? With the Saudization quota at 50%, I'm wondering, are there going to be enough Saudis working, or is there going to be enough talent available? So, Christian, I think that's something for you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, obviously, it's very ambitious, and the Vision 2030 is having its challenges when it comes to workforce. But at the same time, I think we have great opportunities as a business and for the local talents, first of all, to present ourselves to the market, so for people to understand what hospitality actually is and what it has to offer. Because I think one of the issues are, not only here, that people often undervalue the opportunities within hospitality industry in terms of career growth. Very often it's being narrowed down to A, B, C, or D, but yet it's one of the biggest industry on the planet. 1 in 10 jobs are created in hospitality, and with what will be developed here, it's a wonderful opportunity for Generation X and beyond to just start participating and grow a career on their own within this industry. It's not only a chef or a waiter, it's much more than that, right? You can rise to the top of a company, you can become a CEO, you can become a CFO, you can be in marketing. So there's a vast opportunity which I think we need to do a better job in marketing to the audience, first of all. And then secondly, we need to address it in a two-faceted way, which will have to include education and learning in collaboration with the local governments, the industry stakeholders, and the learning facilities. And if we get them all together, then you can develop the strategies for people to hook on and to get the education they need, maybe on a national level, maybe on an international level, maybe in educational training, a vocational training, an apprenticeship, a collaboration between universities, local and international. So there's quite an array of tasks to be covered, but necessary in order to cope with the future demands.
Yeah, so you mentioned the partnerships, right? Like oftentimes when it comes to universities or academies, you see the local players in the GCC tying up with renowned institutions elsewhere. Why hasn't that happened yet? I mean, I don't think that we have an academy that is sort of branded after some European hotel school. So maybe, Chadi, are you aware of any initiative?
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned this, Harmen. With Marriott, we did a partnership with Cornell University, and we have a program called Tahsin. And it's a program that we have in the UAE, here in Saudi as well, and in Egypt. And it's a program where with Cornell we develop a 1 year to 18 months program that develop our employees to get to the XCOM level. And it's something that has been doing extremely well. I think last year we graduated around 150 students on the Tahsin program. But I think here specifically for the kingdom, and especially when we have these partnerships, whether it's with Cornell or Lyon or these famous hospitality universities, you will only have maybe 150, 200, maximum 300 graduates per year. And I think with the amount of hotels coming up in the kingdom, that's definitely not enough. You need the schools that will educate housekeepers, that will educate front office receptions, that will educate bellboys. And these are the graduates where you need 2,000, 3,000 per year to be able to accommodate all that growth. And these are the partnerships that needs to be looked at, I think.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's good that you took that initiative in your own hands, right? That's great to hear. So, sticking to real estate, I think another interesting asset class that is trending globally, but certainly in the GCC, is branded residences. Just to explain branded residences, right? So that's a unit for sale, either for an end user or an investor, that is branded typically after an hospitality brand, whereby the end user has access to the hotel services. And we know for a fact that the Saudis are one of the top buyers in the UAE for branded residences. Yet here in the kingdom, we've seen a very slow start. Maybe there were some examples of branded residences that were not great. So yeah, maybe Chris, you know, what is your view on that? How do you see this evolve in Saudi?
Yeah, thank you. Well, we as a company, we have a strong presence in the kingdom to start with, and a lot of our presence includes branded residences, right? There's a clear trend towards that. Often branded residences are part of a multi-purpose development, which again serves the modern traveler. And it gives you the opportunity to be part of a community. I think this is a lifestyle which people are looking forward today to be part of, right? You just don't want to go only to a hotel and have the sleep-eat experience. You want more out of hotels, and therefore branded residences, which are often in conjunction with the hotel and other buildings such as offices, retail spaces. So you want to be part of a community which you can relate to, which you can connect to, and which you can be part of. And we certainly see a big trend towards it, because people just they don't want to live in isolation, right? So home office, for example, is nice, but maybe not as nice, right? Mm-hmm. So a hotel room of 30 square meters might serve the purpose if I'm coming in for a business meeting and go out. But if I stay for a week, a month, or however long, I want more space. I want to have the services available to me if and when I need it, together of being included in a community which I think is suitable for me. So strong trends, and I think it will only get bigger.
Good. Okay. Well, I mean, just going to branded residences, I mean, when the Saudis buy them in the UAE, they are obviously for second homes purposes, right? Where do you see, so Dr. Badr, with being that the main purpose being a second home, is that one of the reasons why we think, or why we see the new branded residences to pop up in Jeddah? And where do you see the future of branded residences there?
Well, I see Saudi Arabia is a big country and it has different provinces and different locations. For example, if you go to the Red Sea, there are a lot of opportunities there for people to have a second home. People in Riyadh, they always go to Jeddah, Mecca region every year, twice, maybe in winter time, so you can winterize on the Red Sea. A lot of opportunities there to build branded residence for Saudis and also non-Saudis who are residing in the kingdom. When you talk about branded residence, it has something with the brand that a lot of services are provided locally. So when you go there traveling for short term as a second home, you will have all services ready for you. It's not a home that you're staying all your life in. So you want to go there for a holiday or a short holiday or even a long holiday. You want to have all services around you. It's not a hotel, but it's more comfortable than a hotel when you have all the services. So I think it's going to be a successful project if it is on the areas that are the type of short-term residents as holidays or the religious areas like Mecca and Medina. We always go there for like month of Ramadan or during Hajj or for Umrah. Even for non-Saudis, we have millions, like 10, 15 million people come to Mecca and Medina every year. And if we have these residents, we will have more number visiting Saudi Arabia if they find these comfortable residences.
Good. Okay. I mean, so that's from an end user perspective. You know, the benefits. Of course, in a branded residence product, you have the end user, you have the operator, and the developer. Chadi, you deal a lot with developer, right? You're in development for Marriott. So what are the key advantages for owners?
Definitely. I mean, it's something definitely that's coming up more and more, the branded residential component, especially when we discuss with owners. It gives them the extra cash flow. From an investment perspective, it makes a lot of sense whenever they build a hotel and branded residential component. Whenever you sell the branded residential, it gives you that early cash flow that will help within your development, and at the same time it creates that community feel, and it's a very complementary kind of product, right? Let's not forget as well that from a return on investment perspective, branded residential usually is only owned at luxury products. So within our portfolio, we will not look at branded residential on select service. We'll only look at premium and luxury. So obviously the premium that you get on selling these residences is quite high. The branded residential client, I mean, to give you an idea, a branded residential client, the service that he's looking for is exactly what Dr. Badr is saying, is a secondary home. It's whenever you have, let's say, a St. Regis apartments, you have a residential manager who's handling your apartment. When you come to that apartment, when you come to that building, he knows exactly that you're going to be coming with your Labrador. So for example, he's going to make sure that the guy who walks your Labrador is available. He's going to fill up your fridge with Coca-Cola because he knows that you prefer Coca-Cola over Pepsi. He's going to make sure that the chef is available because he knows that usually you have receptions and you want to invite people. So this is a type of service that they're looking for, and they do pay that premium for. And obviously the developers take advantage of this to make sure that it compensates from an investment perspective. So. And then from an end user's perspective, then like typically people use it either for their own, right, as a second home, let's say, or you have an investor coming in, buying it, and put it back into the rental pool, right? As well. Is it common? I mean, culturally it may be a bit sensitive that people stay in it, let's say, half the time, and then with GCC nationals in general, and then for the other weeks or so of the year you rent it out to somebody else, like Dr. Badr. Is that happening in Saudi Arabia, or for Saudis it's more like either investment or own use, and there's no midpoint, let's say?
Well, now it is happening now. We have branded residents in Saudi Arabia. And I see that in Mecca, for example. There is a very nice, beautiful branded residence near the Holy Mosque. So the wealthy people buy those units and use them during the high season. And if they are not there, they rent them back using the same management company.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so that does happen. That's good to know. So another global trend again is in real estate is ESG, right? That's environmental, social, and corporate governance. So that's very much high on the agenda these days. I'm wondering what is happening in Saudi Arabia on that front, and maybe Riyadh, like how I know that you are a renowned office developer. What do you see from end users? Is there a demand for green buildings, for instance?
To be honest, currently with the huge short between supply and demand, developers are not focused on this. However, we believe that international company who is going to move to Riyadh in 24 until 2030 they have a specific requirement. They would like to show to the community that they care about sustainability. So they will be focusing more on renting, to be a tenant in environmental building, LEED building. We believe that will be a good demand in the future. I mean, the market will change currently. CAFT is one of the, I think this is right now the only LEED building in the Riyadh is CAFT currently, but we will see a new project focusing in to get the LEED certificate to be more environmental, so they can cater for the international company.
Right, because we know for a fact that a lot of the multinational companies that are opening offices, oftentimes they are mandated to occupy green buildings. It's not a choice, it's mandated. So that's from an end user point of view. Also there are investment funds. More and more investment funds are green, and they are mandated to only invest in green buildings. So yeah, Dr. Badr, well, have you seen that yet? I mean, I know that you own office buildings, but what is? Have you seen this trend coming up here in Saudi?
Office buildings. Yeah, office buildings. In Riyadh, as you know, a lot of companies, foreign companies, are moving to Riyadh due to the high demand for services and the government contracts and construction contracts. There is a high demand for office spaces, especially the A class. You know, they are classified A, B, and C. The A class, which is the high end. There is a high demand for that, and we don't see much of these buildings. We have few in Riyadh. For example, the King Abdullah economic, the Kafet location, and we have the high towers, Kingdom Faisaliya, but we don't see more than that. Yeah. There is a high demand for the A-class offices, and the prices are getting higher and higher now for the B-class. Yeah. So it's reaching the same price. Yeah. And I think the construction of those offices now is needed at the meantime, especially in Riyadh city.
Green buildings you talk about that are either LEED qualified or otherwise.
Well, the LEED certificate is not really very difficult in Saudi Arabia, because most of the LEED qualifications is related to the weather conditions. For example, the heat installations, the water reservation, and electricity saving, and all these are already and the Saudi specifications. So what you need is just to add a little small things like the commuting services, bikes, stop locations, and small things that you already need to add to the specifications for and you get the LEED certificate. We have you might know, the platinum, the golden, and silver. And I think all buildings in Riyadh can qualify for the silver at least.
Yeah. So that's good news. So minimum investment required to convert a lot of office buildings in Riyadh to green buildings, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
Good. Then one thing about hospitality. So again, global trend. Well, at least locally, there is, in terms of how hotels are being managed, they're all run under a management agreement, almost all of them, right? And when it comes to international brands. More globally, in more mature markets, hotel franchising is picking up, and it's actually one of the prominent ways of dealing with the international operator. And we haven't seen that yet as much in Saudi Arabia. So, Chadi, like, where do you see hotel franchising moving forward in Saudi Arabia?
Well, it's definitely a growing trend for us. Marriott has always been historically mainly a franchise model company. The majority of our portfolio is a franchise model, especially when you look at the portfolio in the US. And it's a natural progression, I think, within the hospitality business, especially when owners become more and more interested in their hospitality asset, where the hospitality real estate within their portfolio is not a small portion anymore. Whenever that hospitality component becomes a big portion of their portfolio, they would like to get involved and have a say in how that hotel is managed. And we're seeing more and more of this happening even here in Saudi. I would say if you look at the Saudi market and our pipeline 4 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago, we had no franchises whatsoever. Last year, we signed 2 franchises, and we have 4 in our pipeline this year as well. So it's definitely a growing trend, which brings with it as well a growing trend in third-party operators, because obviously that shows that there should be a need actually for that hotel to be managed. And sometimes the owners, what they look at is giving themselves a little bit of time to develop these capabilities within their company, and sometimes they rely on third-party operators until they develop it themselves. And we're seeing some of these third-party operators showing up here. So in a nutshell, it's definitely a growing trend, and I'm sure we'll see more and more of it in Saudi.
Fantastic. So that's great to hear. I mean, I know we talked about global trends and how they translate into the local market. A lot of things are up and coming. We talked about ESG, hotel franchising, the housing ladder. So, you know, Saudi Arabia, as we all know, it's a lot of things are changing, and it's super exciting to be in this moment. So thank you for all of your contributions. And I look forward to meeting you again very soon. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.